On the Burin Peninsula of Newfoundland in the autumn of 1929, life followed a rhythm dictated by the North Atlantic. Small, isolated fishing outports clung to the southern coast, with no paved roads linking them to the rest of the island. Communication with the outside world relied on a single telegraph line and the weekly coastal steamer. Families spent their days fishing, curing cod on wooden stages, and preparing for the harsh winter ahead. The communities were hardy, accustomed to storms and the relentless sea, but nothing in their experience could have prepared them for what was coming. Monday, November 18th, began as a calm, clear day. A recent storm had knocked down parts of the local telegraph wire, but by evening the sea appeared placid. Families gathered in their homes, the aroma of cooking filling the air. 5-year-old Gus Etchegary was in St. Lawrence, his sisters busy at the stove, when the calm seemed to settle over the peninsula. Far beneath the ocean, roughly 250 kilometers south of the Burin Peninsula, lay the Laurentian Slope. This steep continental shelf drops from depths of around 100 meters to more than 2,000 meters, a geologically unstable zone where pressure accumulates over centuries. In 1929, the concept of plate tectonics was not understood by the locals, and earthquakes in the North Atlantic were considered improbable. The ground beneath their feet had always seemed solid, and no one imagined that the Atlantic seafloor could suddenly awaken with catastrophic force. As the evening wore on, the people of the peninsula went about their routines, unaware that a massive tectonic event was already unfolding beneath the waves. The calm of the coast belied the coming disaster, setting the stage for a night that would forever alter Newfoundland's history. At 5:02 p.m. Newfoundland time on November 18, 1929, the calm was shattered. A powerful earthquake, later measured at magnitude 7.2, struck deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. On the Burin Peninsula, the tremors lasted for approximately 5 minutes. Dishes rattled, lamps swayed, and chimneys developed cracks or toppled entirely. Families rushed outdoors, confused and alarmed, unsure whether a boiler had exploded or some unimaginable catastrophe had begun. In St. Lawrence, young Gus Etchegary watched the plate of potatoes on the stove vibrate violently, the household gripped by a mix of fear and disbelief. Though the shaking subsided without catastrophic damage on land, the true disaster was occurring beneath the waves. The seismic event triggered a massive underwater landslide on the continental slope of the Grand Banks. An estimated 200 cubic kilometers of sediment began tumbling down the steep slope, accelerating as it descended into deeper waters. This enormous displacement of Earth created a turbidity current, a fast-moving dense flow of sediment and water, traveling at speeds up to 100 kilometers per hour. The underwater avalanche struck 12 transatlantic telegraph cables connecting North America to Europe. Each snapped in sequence from north to south, providing scientists decades later with the first definitive evidence of high-speed submarine landslides. For the people of Newfoundland, the effect was immediate and isolating. The island was suddenly cut off from the rest of the world, communications silenced in an instant. As night fell, no one on the peninsula realized that the tremor was only the opening act. The Atlantic had begun its lethal response, building toward a wave that would soon rise to unprecedented heights, reshaping the coastline and the lives of those who called it home. By 7:30 p.m. Newfoundland time, more than 2 hours after the initial tremor, something unusual began to appear along the shoreline. The water in harbors and coves started to recede at an unnatural speed, exposing the seabed in areas normally hidden beneath the Atlantic. Anchored boats and schooners were left tilting awkwardly in the mud, their hulls scraping against the newly revealed ocean floor. For many residents, curiosity overcame caution, and they ventured closer to observe the strange phenomenon, unaware that it was a classic warning sign of an approaching tsunami. Within minutes, the first giant wave struck. Unlike a single surge, the tsunami arrived in 3 successive pulses. In deep water, the waves traveled at speeds approaching 140 kilometers per hour, slowing to about 40 kilometers per hour as they reached the shallower coastline. The height of the water along the open coast ranged from 2 to 7 meters, but the funnel-shaped inlets of the Burin Peninsula amplified the surge. At Port au Bras, the wave reached approximately 13 meters over 40 feet, devastating homes and infrastructure in its path. The impact was immediate and catastrophic. Wooden houses were lifted from their foundations and smashed, fishing stages and wharves were obliterated, and schooners were carried inland. Entire livelihoods, including more than 280,000 pounds of preserved cod, were swept away. In Lord's Cove, the Rennie family witnessed the destruction firsthand. 4 young children and their mother were swept away, with only the 3-year-old daughter surviving the deluge. 28 lives were lost in total, making this the deadliest earthquake-related tsunami in recorded Canadian history. The night was filled with chaos, confusion, and freezing Atlantic waters. Survivors fled to higher ground, watching as the relentless sea consumed everything in its path. The Burin Peninsula had been permanently changed, its communities scarred, and its residents faced with unimaginable loss. Within half an hour of the final wave, the water began to recede, leaving a coastline that was almost unrecognizable. Entire villages were reduced to splintered wood, overturned boats, and debris scattered across the shore. Survivors emerged from hiding to confront a landscape of utter devastation, the cold November air cutting through soaked clothing. Property losses were immense, estimated at over $1 million Canadian dollars in 1929, a staggering sum for the already struggling island economy. The tsunami had also severed vital connections to the outside world. The recent earthquake and underwater landslide had destroyed telegraph lines and cables, leaving the Burin Peninsula completely isolated. No messages could be sent, and news of the disaster would take days to reach St. John's or other regions. As if the destruction were not enough, a severe winter blizzard struck the peninsula the following day, burying homes, wreckage, and survivors alike under heavy snow. Rescue and relief were slow to arrive, but the SS Meagle reached the area nearly 3 days later, bringing doctors, nurses, and much-needed supplies. Aid from the Red Cross, local authorities, and international governments soon followed, but rebuilding would take years. Many families lost not only homes but entire means of livelihood, as the cod fishery infrastructure had been destroyed. Some residents, like Patrick Rennie of Lord's Cove, were forced to seek work in newly opened fluorspar mines, trading the perils of the sea for those of mining life. The disaster became a turning point for science as well. The sequential snapping of transatlantic telegraph cables provided the first concrete evidence of high-speed turbidity currents, helping researchers understand submarine landslides and underwater earthquakes. Modern tsunami risk assessments and warning systems would eventually be influenced by these events, highlighting the enduring scientific legacy of the 1929 disaster. The 1929 Newfoundland earthquake and tsunami left an indelible mark on both the landscape and the people of the Burin Peninsula. Entire communities were permanently altered, and many families never returned to their pre-disaster homes. Oral histories passed down through generations preserve stories of survival, tragedy, and heroism, ensuring that the events would never be forgotten. For the scientific community, the disaster provided a rare opportunity to study the interplay between underwater earthquakes, landslides, and tsunamis in the North Atlantic. The damage to 12 transatlantic telegraph cables offered precise timing of underwater sediment movement, giving researchers critical insights into turbidity currents and their destructive potential. These findings would influence submarine geology, seismology, and tsunami prediction for decades. The economic impact was profound. Fishing infrastructure, including wharves, stages, and flakes, had been destroyed, and the loss of over 280,000 pounds of salt cod represented a major blow to the region's primary industry. Rebuilding required immense effort, and some communities never fully recovered, reshaping settlement patterns on the southern coast of Newfoundland. Emergency response and disaster preparedness also evolved as a result. Local and national authorities learned the importance of rapid communication, resilient infrastructure, and early warning systems, laying the groundwork for future safety measures. The 1929 event highlighted both human vulnerability and resilience in the face of natural disasters. Today, memorials along the Burin Peninsula mark the sites of homes lost and lives claimed, honoring those who perished. The story of the earthquake and tsunami serves as a sobering reminder of nature's unpredictability and power. It also stands as a testament to human endurance, adaptation, and the capacity to rebuild in the wake of unimaginable tragedy. Newfoundland's 1929 tsunami remains a pivotal moment in Canadian history, teaching lessons in science, preparedness, and the enduring spirit of coastal communities.